our next discussion as well. Now we move on to our next news. Chinese Ambassador to India, Xu Feihong, has said that Beijing opposes the tariffs imposed by the United States on Indian goods. This comes as Washington has pressured New Delhi over its purchases of Russian oil and imposed tariffs of up to 50%. According to the Chinese ambassador, China intends to align with India in defending the multilateral trading system centered on the World Trade Organization, and is also open to bringing more Indian products into its domestic market. This follows Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's two-day visit to New Delhi, after which India and China agreed to resume direct flights and boost trade and investment flows. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Jayjit Bhattacharya. He's an economist and finance expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Can you tell us what is going to happen now between this, if they open their economic corridor between China and India? Like, what will China import from India, and how will it maybe change the dynamics between India and China?
China is two-thirds the size of US. As the US tariffs have come in force on Indian goods, it implies we are losing out about 40-50 billion dollars of our exports. That's a big hole to fill. So China could potentially be that market where we can divert some of these goods into the Chinese market. Unfortunately, there are a whole bunch of barriers that China has put in, which is why neither Indian goods nor other goods are able to penetrate into the Chinese market. So that's a different problem to be solved. However, the posturing from China is that the Chinese are open to having the Chinese market as an option to the US market. And it's also a larger geoeconomic signaling to the US that, look, the world is moving to an alternate WTO regime. The current WTO regime stands in tatters because of what the US administration has done. And, in fact, there is no appellate authority that is existing in WTO. So one can't really take any case to WTO and solve that problem. So in effect, it's a toothless entity that is, that is just carrying on. And it has its use, which is why the rest of the world is trying to hold on to it, including China. But what's turning out is that there seems to be an alternate regime coming up, alternate to WTO, which is WTO minus the United States. And therefore, it's a complex dance of various push and pulls that are going to get played out. And between India and China, let's not forget, there is $100 billion that India faces as a trade deficit. That's a huge hole that we are facing from the Chinese side also. So India is in pressure from both the US and China. If China is signaling that they will open up their market, which they haven't done to any other entity, because they have been signaling that to many other entities, including the the EU, but they haven't really done any action on the ground. So it'll be very interesting to see how things play out in the future as we move forward.
And Jajit, how might this alignment challenge U.S. efforts to influence India's foreign policy, and particularly regarding to Russian oil?
I think it's the other way around. It's how India will be influencing US policies, because clearly the policy step taken by the US is not based on any real data. It's just statements being made that India is fueling the Russian war, which is clearly not true, because India is not the largest importer of oil from Russia. India is not the largest importer of gas from Russia. That is Europe, which imports the maximum amount of gas. India's trade with Russia hasn't gone up as significantly as the trade of other entities have gone up with Russia. So if there is a geoeconomic step being taken by the US without any basis, then it is for India to push back. And this is more of India creating its coalition to push back on a step taken by US, which doesn't have any basis. And that's captured in statements by senior politicians within the US, by congressmen, by Republican colleagues of the current president of the United States, and so on and so forth. So there is a large consensus even within the US that the US is taking steps which are neither geoeconomically good for US nor geopolitically good. In fact, there is a larger geopolitical damage happening to the US and along with that the rest of the world, because the US is still the most powerful
Yes.
country both militarily and economically, and therefore any fracture happening to US impacts everybody else. So it's a situation of being distraught, and it's for India to really push back and bring some balance and semblance of equality in this equation.
Thank you very much, Yajit, for joining us today and sharing your insight in economics. Thank you very much. Now we move on to North America. President